Welcome to the Podkey summary of Discover USDKit and what's new in OpenUSD from WWDC 2026. A bunch of Apple's latest 3D and spatial computing updates really circle around one idea: making USD more usable, more open, and way more practical from creation to delivery. The big themes are a formal OpenUSD spec, better rendering and materials on Apple devices, easier web and Vision Pro experiences, and some very welcome work on file size, accessibility, and developer tools. One of the biggest moves here is the first formal specification for the USD core, published by Apple and the Alliance for OpenUSD. That matters because USD has already become hugely important in 3D pipelines, but a formal spec gives everyone a clearer shared definition of how the foundation is supposed to work. The spec covers domain definitions for geometry, materials, and physics, which helps turn USD from a widely used format into a more stable industry standard. And it's not being handed down from on high. Apple says the work is being driven by open working groups, so developers can help shape what USD becomes next. There's also a really interesting addition for newer kinds of 3D capture and rendering, especially Gaussian splats. If you haven't run into those yet, think of them as scenes built from huge numbers of soft, fuzzy particles that carry position, color, and opacity, instead of the usual clean mesh geometry. That approach can preserve subtle lighting and appearance details that traditional geometry often struggles to reproduce. To support that inside USD, Apple worked with NVIDIA, Adobe, and Pixar on a new primitive called particle fields. The practical win is that these research-heavy scene representations can live alongside meshes, materials, and the rest of a normal USD scene instead of feeling like a separate universe. Preview on macOS is also getting a lot less humble. It now includes a dedicated production-quality ray tracer, which means accurate reflections, precise shadows, and physically correct lighting right inside an app most people still associate with opening PDFs and the occasional screenshot. Apple is aiming this at high-fidelity architectural and product visualization, and the interesting part is that designers can generate ground truth renders directly on any Mac without needing separate rendering software. That's a pretty meaningful shift if you want fewer handoffs and a simpler review loop. Alongside that, Preview and Quick Look now support OpenPBR, moving past the older USD Preview surface material model. In plain language, this is about richer and more physically accurate material definitions, so surfaces behave more consistently and more believably. Apple says that helps create a unified material pipeline across RealityKit, Storm, and the new Preview ray tracer, and it carries across Mac, iPhone, iPad, and Vision Pro too. That kind of consistency is not glamorous, but anybody who's watched a material look right in one app and weirdly plastic in another knows exactly why it matters. Another piece that feels very practical is the new spatial preview framework. It creates a live link between Preview on the Mac and Quick Look on Vision Pro, so when you edit a scene on the Mac, the spatial view in the headset updates right away. That makes it easier to check lighting, composition, and especially scale, because scale is one of those things that loves to look fine on a monitor right up until you stand next to it. Apple is also tying in SharePlay, so teams can review the same scene together across devices and literally walk around it in real time. On the web side, Safari is getting a new model tag that lets developers embed USD files directly into web pages. The idea is to make interactive 3D feel more native to the web experience, more like dropping in an image or video than building some custom one-off viewer every time. And on Vision OS, those models can break out of the page and appear spatially in the user's environment, which gives web-based 3D a path into mixed reality without changing the whole delivery model. For developers, Apple is also trying to make USD less intimidating to work with directly. USDKit brings first-class Swift APIs for loading, editing, and exporting USD stages, with built-in connections to RealityKit and Spatial Preview. It wraps core concepts like layers, stages, prims, schemas, and attributes in a more native Swift-friendly way, and it supports referencing external assets without copying data. which is a big help for composition workflows. If you need cross-platform work, there's also SwiftUSD as an open-source Swift, binding through Swift Package Manager, and Apple is offering an embeddable OpenUSD framework for C++ codebases. The important part is that these all sit on the same USD foundation, so moving files between Apple tools and external pipelines is supposed to stay clean and portable. Two other updates are a little quieter, but honestly pretty important. Apple helped define an accessibility metadata schema for USD, so assistive labels and descriptions can be attached to any 3D object. That metadata can be authored through any USD API, and it's already supported in Blender and Maya, which is a strong sign. This isn't being treated as an afterthought. Then there's compression. Working with the Alliance for Open Media, Apple added a mesh compression codec that can cut mesh data by up to 90% while keeping visual quality intact. Pair that with AVIF texture compression, and average assets end up around 7 times smaller, which helps with storage, delivery speeds, and generally not making everyone wait around for giant files to load. Taken together, this feels like Apple pushing USD in every direction at once. Standards, tools, rendering, collaboration, the web, accessibility, and plain old performance. It's a very ecosystem-shaped update, but there's real substance in it, especially if you care about getting 3D content to move cleanly from creation to sharing to actually experiencing it. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.